Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday to you. I hope you're doing well and having a great July. I had a wonderful day today. I got to spend some time with my friend Whitney. I got to talk with my friend Natasha on the phone. I got to work on my sermon for Sunday, did some sermonizing, worked on the bulletin, and then I was prepping for Sunday school. And Sunday school for our kiddos has been so fun. Mary Ellen Thompson helps me with this every week, and we had a big group of kids last week, and we did the story of Joseph and the dream coat. The week before, we did the story of Daniel in the lion's den, and this week we are going to do Noah's Ark. And the children's side of Noah's Ark, the children's Sunday school lesson, is a little bit different than the lesson that I want to share with you tonight. But I wanted to read a little bit of the story. In Genesis 6, we read that Noah was a righteous man, blameless among the people of his time, and he walked faithfully with God. He had 3 sons. The earth at this time was corrupt in God's sight and full of violence. God saw how corrupt the people had become, and so God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to the people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm surely going to destroy them in the earth, so make yourself an ark. This is how you will build it. And he gives them instructions. I will bring the flood, and every creature that has breath will need to get into the ark. I am establishing a covenant with you. As you enter the ark, you and your sons and your wife and your sons' wives with you, you will bring the ark with 2 living creatures of every kind, male and female, and keep them alive. Noah did everything just as God commanded him. Noah was 600 years old when the floodwaters came. And Noah and his sons and his wife and his sons' wives entered the ark and escaped the waters of the flood. So it's a crazy story. It's a perfect children's Sunday school story with the animals. And of course, the crafts are the cutest, the Sunday school crafts. But for us adults, if you really think about this story, what speaks to me is the radical obedience that Noah has with God's command and the sacrifice that comes with the radical obedience. It's not always easy to follow God, and it's not always possible to follow God and have a perfect reputation. I don't know if any of you have seen the movie Evan Almighty with Steve Carell. It's like a modern day version of Noah's Ark. It's really cute. I highly recommend it. But it's with the actress that is Lorelai Gilmore on Gilmore Girls and Steve Carell from The Office. But it's just this idea, of God giving him this vision to build the ark in modern day in the movie, and everybody thinks he's crazy. And you kind of have to think that, again, all these people and their hearts that had just become so wicked in this story in Genesis 6 and 7, what were they thinking? What were Noah's community members and neighbors thinking when he was building this gigantic ark? And it took years and years, decades even, to build this ark. Were they mocking him? Were they gossiping about him? Were they coming up to him as he was building and saying, you sure this is a good idea? Or were they just blatantly saying, this is stupid. You are stupid for thinking that you are following God's call. I know so many amazing people who have been faithful to follow the call of God, even when they are mocked, even when people question them at every single turn. I have friends who have planted a church, and they are not church planting type of people. They're not outgoing. They're not great with rejection and failure, yet God called them to plant a church. And so they did it. They were obedient. I know folks who late in life, in their 60s, 70s, even one in her 80s, when their spouses passed away, they decided they were going to move overseas and be a full-time missionary in continents like Africa or Asia and countries like India and Kenya. And everyone thought they were crazy. Their grandkids, sometimes their great-grandkids. You're going to do what, Grandma? You're going to move and live in a hut because Grandpa died? Sometimes we like to think about following God and the obedience of following God as just always a positive thing. And it is a positive thing, but it also requires a lot of bravery and thick-skinned. Doing the right thing often comes with ridicule. Following the call that God has on your life can come with so many people's skepticism. I know and I've shared this before, but I know when I was in seminary, I went to a Baptist seminary. I didn't go to a United Methodist seminary where there were other women. There were sometimes 2 other women in my classes. Sometimes I was the only woman in my class. And I would be verbally berated before class, on the way out of the class, of, you don't belong here. You don't belong here. You're not meant to be a pastor. You have no place in the pulpit, and you have no place at Denver Seminary. Now, it got so bad at one point I actually had to go to the Denver Seminary president because it did end up being like verbally abusive, and the guy had to face some consequences. But the point is it's hard. It's hard to follow God sometimes, especially when the things that you know are the best for the kingdom, right? They don't really make a lot of sense on earth. The wisdom of God is foolishness to man. That's in the scriptures. So a lot of times, sometimes the world sees something to be foolish that God has shown us to be true. And so I don't know how that speaks to you. I don't know if there was a time in your life that you really felt alone. You knew you were doing the right thing, but there were people that were questioning you. And maybe you're in that situation now where you're really kind of discerning what to do, and you feel like you're getting pushback from everyone. I would actually encourage you to read the story of Noah and maybe watch the story of an Almighty. It's a hard thing to follow God. It is. To choose Jesus and obedience to Jesus is not an easy feat, but Jesus never ever commands us to do something that he himself did not do. Jesus modeled for us being willing to be mocked, being willing to be made and questioned and persecuted and flogged and crucified. They mocked him up until the very end of his life. And everyone saw him as foolish, as wrong, as crazy. And that is our Savior. And we know on the 3rd day, obviously, he proved everyone wrong. He defeated death and sin and evil from the resurrection. So know that our Savior is never ever asking you to do something that he himself has not already done. That's great leadership right there. And I hope that you can relate a little bit like I can with Noah. When you follow what seems to be radical, out of the ordinary, strange, don't listen to the other voices. Listen to the voice of the Spirit. Listen to God's call more than man's gossip and man's bickering. Because the more we can kind of tune out those negative voices, the more we can continue living in God's perfect will. I love you all. I hope this inspired you a little bit. I kind of sort of am hoping it rains. So maybe me reading Noah and the Ark will allow it to rain a little bit, because I know we can use the moisture. I will talk to you all on Friday. Bye.